Hello everybody and welcome back to another video from the Theory of Racelessness. Before the clip, we have some very exciting news. Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos Hoy, and Greg Thomas present Resolving the Racism Dilemma, a full-day conference coming up this September 24th, 2022. Register using the link in the description box down below to experience these leading voices as they explore and discuss how to correct the misguided notions of race. Now, enjoy the video.
This is fascinating. So what's the explanation for some of the common misconceptions, some of which we've touched on a little bit, like, people look at athletic ability, or they look at intellectual ability, or they look at phenotype, right? And then they feel like, well, of course race exists, not just in the social constructed way that some people might say, but in a very real biological, it's in your DNA way. Like, how do you help me understand how observing those ideas about race and like the sort of misconceptions that get attached to race, how it's not actually race that's at work?
I mean, the simple answer is it's culture, right? But I think it is important to, like, when you add race to culture, culture becomes a lot stronger, right? When it's not just like, oh, like my ancestors and my family, we speak this language, or like we make this like flavor of pie and our neighbors make the other flavor of pie, right? Like when you start to think like we make this flavor of pie and we do it because it's who we are, right? And it's like who we are, and it's like it's inherent, then it gets really strong, right? And it's like we have so many counterexamples, but the fact that there's examples today of racial disparity or just racial proclivity, in a bunch of different things, makes people think, well, it must still be real. And it's just this famous game where, confirmation bias is really big in race because you can sort of cheat, right? Like, Frankie Fredericks and Wade Van Niekerk are, two of the greatest sprinters of all time. And Frankie Fredericks is Namibian, and Wade Van Niekerk is South African. And it's actually sort of a funny aside that his mother is Indian, but she wasn't allowed to run in South Africa because under apartheid, the coloreds couldn't run. And he's now the fastest 400-meter runner of all time. But people will say, oh, well, the Bantu probably got down there. He's West African, right? And that's because people who are like really into track, they have noticed that East Africans, and really it's people from Kenya, are really good at the marathon. And the best miler of all time is North African, right? So they've noticed that different people in different parts of Africa are good at like different things. So they're not gonna say, okay, like all Africans can sprint, but they decided that all West Africans can sprint fast. And it's really because of Jamaica and like Trinidad. Like if you actually look at the enrichment in sprint performance is West Indian. Jamaica has something like, I looked at the data the other day, like 20 something men to run under 10 seconds in the 100 meter. The US has like, I don't know, 44 or something. So the US has like twice as many, but the US is 150 times as large. There's 1 million people in Trinidad and 6 of them have run under 10 seconds in the 100. So there's massive enrichment. The people, and if you're going to go by like Ancestry, our last world championship guy from Canada, Andre DeGrasse, his parents are from Trinidad. And so if you start to uncover like all these guys from the US, around half of them, their parents are, either their parents or they were born there. They're from somewhere in the West Indies. So the big enrichment is being West Indian. So if you were going to say like, okay, like I can't believe this isn't a genetic advantage, you would harp on that. You would say there must be something in the water, which people do also say, right? But they're not taken seriously. But when you say, oh, it must be something to do with being West African, you're taken seriously because people take race seriously, right? It's just a construct that we take seriously, but it's not the big enrichment. Like I always tell people, in 2012, the Jamaicans swept the 200. And that's so incredible because there's 2 million people there. 2 million, right? There's 300 million people in the US. There's 40 million people here that are racialized as Black. There's 2 million in Jamaica, right? There's 140 million in Nigeria. The Jamaicans went 1, 2, and 3, and you're only allowed to put 3 guys in the race, right? So it's like that shouldn't happen, right? That should be where we're. And some guy did actually. So there's actually a guy. He actually wrote a paper on it. He went to Jamaica and he like biopsied their legs and he looked for the gene for speed and he didn't find it, right? But as a whole, I guess there are some guys that take this kind of seriously, but the point is that's not overall taken as a serious argument. What is what's their race, right? And that's strange. And like the one that I happened upon today was I was reading some claim about race, and it had to do with intellectual capability, and I looked at like outcomes and like age at first birth and all these things, right? And I said, white Americans are doing better than Black Americans on this, but also Asian Americans are doing the best, and Native Americans are doing the worst. But from a racial perspective, right, those are the 2 most similar groups. It would be the Native Americans and the Asian Americans. So they're top and bottom of your list. So how can that be, right? If shared ancestry predicts your performance, then the 2 groups that share the most ancestry can't bookend the list, right? But of course, people just don't care about that, right? So there's enough counterexamples, and more important than the counterexamples is that we have so many examples of stronger enrichment. And the last thing I'll say is,
we hope you enjoyed that highlight. To watch the full version, use the link in the description box down below. Before we go, here's another reminder for Resolving the Racism Dilemma with Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos Hoyt, and Greg Thomas. We highly encourage you check out the great things being offered at this conference, September 24th. All of the conference information is linked down below. We hope to see you there.